Well, just recently, one of the great Catholic philosophers in the world passed away, René Girard. And I think Girard will be appreciated as a kind of church father in the centuries that come. He was a Frenchman born in Avignon, member of the Académie Française, the most prestigious academic society probably in the world. But he made his reputation here in America at the University of Indiana. He ended up at Stanford University, also taught, I think, at Johns Hopkins. There are some academics that will beguile you with some interesting ideas, other academics who will shake your world. And I think Girard belongs in that second camp. One of these thinkers that had an idea that was really revolutionary. His research began in the literary field, people like Shakespeare and Dostoevsky and Proust especially. And he found in these writers a dynamic of human desire. What he found was that desire is often triangular and mimetic. A fancy way of saying something really quite simple, that we rarely desire things in a straightforward way. That's good, I want it because some of its properties. Normally, typically, we desire things in a mimetic way, an imitative way. I want that because you want it. I'm imitating your desire, you're imitating my desire. You see now why I say triangular. It's myself, the object, and another. Set up a triangular and mimetic dynamic. If this sounds abstract, it's not. Look at advertising. Most advertising works according to this Girardian principle. How come I want that pair of gym shoes? Because of its intrinsic worth and value? Well, maybe partially, but largely because the NBA star over there also wants those gym shoes. Advertising is predicated upon a triangular and mimetic desire. Also look at the way any little kids, if there's a bunch of toys over here and a kid's playing happily with a ball or something, and then along comes a second toddler and he wants something from that pile. Immediately, suddenly, this kid wants it too. It was a matter of utter indifference until the other toddler wanted it. A triangular mimetic dynamic. Okay, what does that lead to? Well, it tends to lead, Girard said, to conflict. And again, watch it with any toddlers, or watch it with dictator A wants access to the sea, and suddenly dictator B wants the same access to the sea, and outbreaks a war. See? So from mimetic triangular desire tends to come conflict. What this leads to is what Girard called the scapegoating mechanism. He found this too in the great literary masters. What's the scapegoating mechanism? When I say mechanism, I imply with him it's largely unconscious, not something that we're consciously aware of. I tend to find someone or some group to blame. I'll say he's responsible, she's responsible, or they're responsible for the struggles that we're having. And I often find someone a little bit different, strange looking, strange sounding, from a different place or something. And I will project onto that person all of the struggle that's caused by mimetic triangular desire. And in the process, what happens is we do come together in a sort of ersatz piece. So as together we blame this third party, we at least for a moment experience a rush of solidarity and a rush of peace. There's the scapegoating mechanism. Watch this dynamic everywhere once you see it. I remember when I was going through grad school, I heard this phrase for the first time, that the only thing that two academics can agree on is how poor the work of a third academic is. So academics, of course, famously disagree, but they'll come together by saying, isn't his work terrible? Or watch the way people talk to each other. We'll talk about anodyne things for a while, but then pretty quickly we turn to gossiping and to blaming. And there is a real kind of Gemütlichkeit, the Germans call it, a fellow feeling that happens when we come together to blame a third party. That's the scapegoating mechanism. Now, on the grandest and most nefarious scale, look to Hitler, who at a time when Germany was marked by all kinds of interior tensions, effectively exploited the scapegoating mechanism to say, well, who's responsible for our economic struggles, our cultural struggles, our political, our military struggles? It's the Jews who stabbed us in the back, the Jews who undermined us during World War I, etc. And so what did he do is he created an extraordinary fellow feeling among his fellow Germans by exploiting precisely the Scapegoating mechanism. Now, one more step. Precisely because it has this effect of bringing us together and seemingly solving the problem, the scapegoating mechanism in our literature and mythology tends to be sacralized. We tend to say it's a good thing, and God or the gods smile upon it. Do you want to see this on vivid literary display? Go get Shirley Jackson's masterpiece short story, The Lottery, that we all read in high school. I won't go into the details, but go find it. Or maybe recall that story. There's the Girardian dynamic on full display. Scapegoating, which has been sacralized by a community to produce peace. Press it further now. Girard says in most of the myths of the world, across the cultures, across the centuries, what you'll find is precisely the sacralization of violence, sacred scapegoating, the gods smiling upon it. Okay. He saw all of that in the great literary masters. He saw it repeated culturally and all of it. And then he read the Bible. And the Bible, which, he had been raised a Catholic, but had kind of fallen away from the practice of the faith. The Bible took his breath away. Now, why? Because he saw that the Bible knew all of this. The Bible knew all these dynamics. Everything in Dostoevsky, Shakespeare, and Proust. Of course, they learned it from their Christian tradition. It was in the Bible. But the Bible had something else. The Bible had something new. Because the Bible unmasked the identification between the gods and the scapegoating mechanism. It unmasked the mythology of sacred violence. Because in the Christian telling, God is not on the side of the scapegoaters. God identifies with the scapegoated victim. So Jesus crucified is not God sanctioning violence, but God unmasking and revealing the dynamics of sacred violence. Think in the passion narratives of Caiaphas, right? Typical religious leader, Girard would say, who says, look, wouldn't it be better for one person to die than for the whole nation to be destroyed? There it is. There's the scapegoating mechanism, typically sanctioned by a high religious figure. The fact that Caiaphas is at cross purposes to the God of Israel, the true God, that's a revelation, right? That's an apocalypse. That just means taking the veil away. Something's been pulled away, like the Wizard of Oz, pulling the veil and revealing what's really going on. Girard thinks that's what happens in Christianity and why it alone functions as a true revelation. Now, here's the thing I find really interesting. When I was coming of age, it was very common within academia to see Christianity, if you took it seriously at all, as one more iteration of the great monomyth. Now look at someone like Joseph Campbell, whom I revere in many ways. But Campbell, who studies the great myths of the world, across the cultures, across time, and sees certain fundamental dynamics. What's Christianity? It's one more telling of the great myth. The monomyth, the one great myth that's told over and over again, the one song that's sung in 1,000 accents. What did Girard show us? He showed us that, no, that's getting it backwards. Christianity is not one more iteration of the monomyth. Christianity is the deconstruction of the monomyth. It's an unveiling of the dynamics that the myths want to veil. And in that, he shows the uniqueness and indispensability of Christianity to a culture that was becoming very skeptical of that uniqueness. You see now why I think René Girard will be seen, perhaps one day, as a church father. Because at a time when a lot of academics wanted to defang and domesticate Christianity, he reclaimed it as something uniquely revelatory.